Welcome to G-Fun Facts Online. Today we are diving deep into a technology that sounds like science fiction, but is rapidly becoming a medical reality. We are talking about digital twins. Imagine a version of yourself that exists entirely within a supercomputer. This isn't a video game character. It is a living, computationally breathing biological replica. It has your DNA. It mimics the unique rhythm of your heart. It digests sugar exactly the way your metabolism does, and its immune system reacts to threats with the same specific idiosyncrasies as your own body. Now, imagine you are diagnosed with a rare, aggressive form of cancer. In the traditional world of medicine, doctors would have to make a calculated gamble with chemotherapy that might damage your heart. But in the near future, they won't test the drug on you. They will test it on your digital twin. In the safety of a virtual simulation, doctors can fast-forward time, simulating weeks of treatment in mere seconds, watching for side effects before a single drop of real chemical ever enters your veins. This is the dawn of the in silico revolution. For centuries, medicine has relied on in vivo testing on animals and humans, and in vitro testing in test tubes. Today, we are entering the era of experiments conducted entirely on silicon chips. To understand where this technology is going, we first have to look at where it came from. And surprisingly, it didn't start in a hospital. It started at NASA. The concept of the digital twin was born in the 1960s. When the Apollo 13 mission suffered that catastrophic oxygen tank explosion 200,000 miles from Earth, engineers in Houston couldn't fly up to inspect the damage. Instead, they relied on high-fidelity simulators remaining on Earth. These were the proto-twins. Engineers used these ground-based replicas to simulate possible solutions, hacking together air scrubbers from duct tape and socks, testing the procedure on the twin before relaying the life-saving instructions to the astronauts. Fast forward to 2002, and Dr. Michael Greaves at the University of Michigan formally introduced the concept for manufacturing. General Electric uses digital twins for jet engines. Tesla uses them to push software updates based on how your specific vehicle is aging. But translating this from bolts and steel to blood and bone is an order of magnitude more complex. A jet engine is a complicated system, but it is linear. The human body is a complex system. It is chaotic. A single protein misfolding can cascade into disease. For decades, this complexity was an insurmountable wall. We simply didn't have the computing power. But three converging tsunamis of technology have broken down that wall. First, big data and multiomics. We can now sequence a genome for under $200. We can map proteins and chemical processes. Second is increased compute power via cloud supercomputers. And third is AI and machine learning. This is the glue. Where human minds cannot see the pattern between a genetic marker and a drug side effect, deep learning algorithms can find the needle in the haystack. This brings us to the massive problem this technology solves. The current process of developing a new drug is broken. It takes 10 to 15 years to bring a new drug to the pharmacy shelf. The average cost is over $2.5 billion per successful drug. But the most shocking statistic is the failure rate. 90% of drugs that enter human clinical trials fail. Imagine an airline where 90% of the new planes crashed during test flights. That is the reality of the pharmaceutical industry. Drugs often fail because animal models like mice and rats are poor predictors of human biology. We have cured cancer in mice thousands of times, but those cures rarely translate to humans. Furthermore, traditional clinical trials are rigid and ethically fraught. Half the volunteers are given a placebo, a sugar pill. If you have a dying patient, is it moral to give them a sugar pill when an experimental treatment exists? Digital twins offer a way to bypass these bottlenecks through in silico clinical trials. Instead of recruiting 1,000 real humans, researchers can create a cohort of 1,000 virtual humans. These digital patients can be crafted to represent the full diversity of the real world, including different ages, ethnicities, and comorbidities. The benefits are transformative. A simulation that takes months in the real world can be run in minutes. You can test toxic doses to find the exact breaking point without harming a living soul. And importantly, this could mark the end of the placebo. If a computer can perfectly predict what would happen to a patient if they didn't take the drug, we might not need a placebo group at all. Every real patient could get the medicine. So how do you actually build a digital human? It is not as simple as scanning a body. It involves two warring but complementary schools of thought. First, there is the mechanistic approach, or the white box. This is the bottom-up method, where scientists write mathematical equations that describe the laws of biology and physics. We know how fluid flows through a tube, so we can use those equations to model blood flowing through an artery. The pro is that we understand why the model makes a prediction. The con is that we don't know all the equations for the human body yet. Then there is the AI approach, or the black box. You don't teach the computer the laws of biology. Instead, you feed it massive amounts of data from millions of patients. The AI notices patterns, like everyone with a certain gene having a bad reaction to a certain drug. It learns the pattern without knowing the biological why. The most advanced digital twins today use a hybrid approach. They use mechanistic models for things we understand, like heart mechanics, and AI to fill in the gaps for things we don't, like complex immune responses. To make this work, the system needs data. It needs your genomic data, which is your hardware code. It needs phenotypic data, which is your current age and weight. It needs real-time sensor data, from wearables like Apple Watches or Oura Rings, to track heart rate and sleep. And it needs environmental data to understand the social determinants of your health. Let's look at some real-world examples of this in action. One of the most visually stunning examples is the Stanford Living Heart Project, led by Dassault Systems. They have created a full 3D simulation of a human heart. It beats. The valves open and close. Surgeons can use this twin to practice difficult procedures. If a child is born with a rare heart defect, surgeons can scan the child's heart, create a digital twin, and operate on the twin 10 times before they touch the child. Then there is Unlearn AI, a startup making waves with regulators. They have pioneered a method where they use AI to look at historical data and build a digital twin for each patient in a trial that predicts how their disease would have progressed if they hadn't taken the drug. The European Medicines Agency and the FDA are already engaging with this technology, which allows trials to run with fewer human subjects in the placebo group. On the corporate side, Sanofi is using digital twins to model eczema and asthma. By simulating immune pathways, they can predict which patients will respond to their biological drugs. This is crucial for rare diseases, where finding enough patients for a trial is incredibly hard. However, as we move toward a world where every patient has a digital twin, we enter a minefield of ethical dilemmas. First, who owns your twin? If a hacker steals your credit card, you cancel it. If a hacker steals your digital twin, they have your entire biological blueprint. They know your genetic predispositions, your mental health history, and your likely future diseases. The nightmare scenario is that this data is sold to an insurance company, which runs a simulation, sees you have a high risk of Alzheimer's in 20 years, and denies you coverage today. Then there is the issue of bias in the code. AI is only as good as the data it is trained on. Historically, medical data is skewed toward white male populations. If we train digital twins on this biased data, the twins will accurately predict drug responses for white men but fail for black women or Asian men. We must actively work to build synthetic diversity into these models. There is also the strange question of digital immortality. If you die, your digital twin lives on. It is still on a server, simulating your biology. Can researchers continue to test drugs on your digital ghost? Does your family own your twin? And what about the nocebo effect of knowledge? Imagine your digital twin predicts with 99% accuracy that you will have a massive stroke next Tuesday. Should the system tell you? If it tells you, you might panic, raising your blood pressure and actually causing the stroke. If it doesn't tell you and you die, is the system liable for negligence? Despite these challenges, the regulatory landscape is shifting. The FDA and the European Medicines Agency are the gatekeepers. The FDA Modernization Act 2.0, passed in 2022, was a landmark piece of legislation. It explicitly authorized the use of alternatives to animal testing, including computer models, for drug approval. The challenge now is validation. How do you prove the twin is accurate? The industry is using real-world evidence, comparing simulations to actual trial results to build trust. Looking ahead to 2030 and beyond, we are moving toward the era of preventative medicine. Today, medicine is reactive. You get sick, you go to the doctor. Digital twins will flip this model to proactive medicine. In the future, you might wake up and check your health dashboard. Your digital twin has been running millions of simulations while you slept. It might notify you that your inflammation markers are up and recommend a specific dietary change to prevent a migraine on Friday. The ultimate goal is the whole-body digital twin. We are currently modeling organs and systems, but the moonshot is integrating everything: the brain's electrical signals, the gut microbiome, and hormonal transport. This will likely require exascale computing and quantum computers, but when we achieve it, we will have a sandbox for human biology. We could virtually delete a gene to see what happens. We could test a cocktail of 50 different vitamins to find the optimal longevity protocol for you specifically. This also offers the inspiring prospect of ending animal testing. Millions of animals are sacrificed annually in drug labs, often for results that don't apply to humans. Digital twins offer a morally superior alternative. A server farm feels no pain. A simulation suffers no fear. To summarize the technology stack that makes this possible, we have the data acquisition layer, often called the digital thread, which connects the physical patient to the virtual model via genomics and wearables. We have the modeling layer, which uses knowledge graphs to map cause and effect, and generative AI to create synthetic data that preserves privacy while boosting statistical power. And finally, the interface layer, where surgeons might use spatial computing and VR headsets to hold a beating digital heart in 3D space. The economic impact on Big Pharma will be massive. Phase 3 clinical trials are known as the Valley of Death because they cost hundreds of millions of dollars. If regulators allow for synthetic control arms using digital twins, companies could cut recruitment costs by 50% and speed up trials by years. An extra year on the market for a blockbuster drug is worth $1 billion in revenue. It can also rescue failed drugs. Researchers can run simulations on the digital twins of a failed trial to discover if the drug worked for a specific genetic subgroup, turning a failure into a targeted therapy. We are standing on the precipice of a new reality. The convergence of biology and binary code is changing the definition of what it means to be a patient. Digital twins represent the ultimate promise of the information age. They offer a world where drugs are developed in months, not decades. A world where treatments are tailored to your DNA, not the average human. And a world where the dangerous trial and error of medicine is relegated to the virtual realm. The introduction of digital twins is a rewriting of the covenant between doctor and patient. For thousands of years, the covenant was, I will do my best based on what I know about people like you. The new covenant is, I will treat you based on a perfect understanding of you. We are moving away from the tyranny of averages. No longer will a patient suffer a side effect because they were an outlier on a bell curve. In the world of digital twins, everyone is an N of one study. Everyone is the center of their own medical universe. There will be hurdles. We will face privacy scandals, algorithmic failures, and regulatory battles. But the trajectory is clear. The future of medicine is not just in the hospital ward or the chemistry lab. It is in the server room. Testing life-saving drugs in a virtual world is no longer a fantasy. It is the only way forward. And somewhere in the cloud, your twin is waiting to save your life. Thanks for listening to this deep dive on G Fun Facts Online.